Kính chào quý vị, chào mừng quý vị trở lại với chương trình Vo On Air do Vietnamese American Roundtable tổ chức. Buổi ghi âm hôm nay đó thưa quý vị là sẽ bằng tiếng Anh và Nguyên sẽ cố gắng thông dịch một cách trọn vẹn nhất, nhưng mà nếu mà có gì sơ suất thì mong quý vị bỏ qua cho. Mục đích của buổi nói chuyện ngày hôm nay đó thưa quý vị thì là Nguyên và Philip Nguyễn, boss của Nguyên, mong muốn giới thiệu đến quý vị những người phụ nữ đã và đang có những cái đóng góp rất là tích cực, rất là có ích cho cộng đồng, đặc biệt là cộng đồng người Việt Nam tại vùng vùng B. Philip, would you like to kick us off with the question?
Yeah, thanks, William. Glad to join Bar and Air tonight and co-host with you. And really excited to bring on our guests for tonight. It's March is Women's History Month, and part of this Bar and Air tonight is that we want to make sure that we are celebrating and recognizing some of the very powerful and empowered women that inspire us in our communities. So that's not just limited to any certain any particular month, right? Knowing how much impact some of these folks really have on our lives and the work that we do. And so I have the honor of asking the first question, which is really to ask our guests if they could self-introduce or introduce themselves to our audience tonight. And also to add as a part of that, if there are any ways that you've been celebrated or have been celebrating Women's History Month in this past month. I'll start with you first, Gianni.
Thank you, Philip, and thank you, Wen. I just want to say thanks to VAR for this privilege to participate in this show. I'm so happy to be here alongside Christine as well as Alicia. And so my name is Hanyi Zhang. And in terms of my work capacity, I currently serve as the senior manager of the Vietnamese American Service Center for the County of Santa Clara. I recently transitioned over to that role to lead the VASC after having served at the district attorney's office for more than 12 years. So I'm so thrilled to sort of be there in that capacity to serve the community more broadly. Outside of work, I also currently serve as the board president of the Vietnamese American Professional Women of Silicon Valley. It's a wonderful network of Viet powerful sisters who just do so much to serve our community and support our students with mentorship and scholarships. Outside of that, I'm also a mom of 3 girls. so, girl power, women power is really prominent for me. In terms of how I have celebrated Women's History Month, I am embarrassed to say that I don't do enough. And so this is one of the ways this year that it's at the forefront for me. So I really appreciate VAR just calling us together to do this. So yeah, this is one way that I'm doing it this year, but I do hope that throughout the year I carry that spirit forward as a mom and as a Viet sister. So I'm so proud to be here.
Thanks, Heidi. Um, yeah, and just also want to shout out to VAPW and the work that y'all are doing with students and the community and how we've been able to partner well with both VAPW and the VASC, right? And all these sorts of different areas that intersect, and really glad to also have been able to see the way in which the group that we brought together are able to interact, because I know y'all go back quite some time. I'll pass it to you, Christine. You've been a guest on Bar and Air before too, and a longtime board member for us. If you could reintroduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, first I just wanted to, kind of again publicly congratulate Hanyi for her new role. We are so excited, to have you at the helm, and can't imagine anybody better to lead the Vasco. We are very, very excited for you. So a little bit about myself. Like Philip mentioned, I have been a long time board member with the Vietnamese American Roundtable, serving as past president, and even before I think VAR was incorporated. So back when we were truly, truly grassroots and completely informal. I've also had the opportunity to serve with the Vietnamese professional women and had the benefit of all of the mentorship and sisterhood that VAPA provides for us. So, I as a young early career professional, VAPA was there every step of the way and helped me both in my graduate school endeavors as well as my professional endeavors. So current day job, I am the chief counsel out at NASA Ames Research Center, supporting the legal office and guiding the legal office there. And then outside of VAR, I am also still serving as the president for the VA Bank Law Foundation, which is the nonprofit arm for VA Bank, where we raise money to put to jumpstart the careers of public interest attorneys by way of a fellowship. So really excited to be here with my VAPA sisters and my VAR family. And how have I been celebrating? It's been mostly just with other friends, moms, colleagues, in all parts, and listening to stories that have been and events that have been shared whenever I can, because like Hanyi, we have 2 young girls in our family. So it's squeezing time in whenever we have time to be able to celebrate. And so just one shy of the girl gang that Hanyi has. So very, very excited to be with you all tonight.
Thanks, Christine. And no pressure. I know they ended on their children and the girl gangs that they've been able to produce and be a part of. But I'll pass it to you, Alicia. If you could share a little bit about yourself and your journey and how this month has been treating you as well.
The head of the girl gang.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I do want to apologize for my choppy connection. So hopefully you still hear me okay, but feel free to let me know if I'm like cutting out. Yeah, my name is Alicia. I am actually currently in the middle of a career transition, but my most recent role for my 9 to 5 was working in the healthcare technology space. As I'm thinking about where I want to kind of take my next step in my career, I am looking to stay in healthcare and or the mental health care space. But truly my deep passion is in investing in my community. Like Christine and Henny, I am also part of VAR as well as VAPW. In my capacity at VAR, I am on the board of directors where I help guide the vision and the goals of our community impact within the South Bay Vietnamese community. And within the VAPW capacity, I am the chair for our scholarship committee, where I manage a scholarship program that provides financial support for young Vietnamese American students to achieve their higher educational goals. It's a very full circle moment for me to be a part of both VAR and VAPW, because my journey with VAR really began as a volunteer when I was just a student myself, attending the events that VAR was putting on. And I honestly can't remember explicitly how I got looped into VAR, but somehow I ended up on the other side, and it's been a great few years on board. And same thing with VAPW. I was actually a recipient of the scholarship in 2020 when I was transitioning between community college to university. And now I'm on the other side, actually helping choose our next classes of scholarship recipients. So it's amazing being able to really kind of up-level my commitment in the community, and it's truly an honor to be with you all today. In terms of how I'm celebrating, honestly, I don't know if I have been celebrating. I think I try to celebrate the woman in my life every day, with little pieces here and there, but yeah, it's more implicit. It's not like as explicit as having this conversation today, but I'm really happy that we have this opportunity, and yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Cảm ơn Alicia, Hà Nhi và Christine. Nguyên sẽ dịch một tí xíu thôi chứ không dịch hết được. Thì quý vị cũng nghe nói là Alicia là người đã và đang làm việc trong cái gọi là công nghệ chăm sóc sức khỏe. Quý vị có nghe Alicia có chia sẻ là hiện tại bây giờ Alicia và cũng như Christine Phạm là 2 người làm trong cái thành viên hội đồng quản trị của tổ chức Vietnamese American Roundtable mà Nguyên và Philip đang làm việc. Ngoài ra thì là Alicia có nhắc đến và chị Hà Nhi và Christine nữa có nhắc đến một cái tổ chức là dành cho những người gọi là những người phụ nữ chuyên nghiệp của vùng Silicon Valley. Là cái tổ chức đó là do đã mang lại những cái học bổng, những cái scholarship rất là có ý nghĩa dành đến cho những bạn gái người Việt trong cộng đồng tại Santa Clara và cũng như là tại thành phố San Jose. Thì quý vị nên theo dõi cái Facebook của tổ chức đó, bởi vì đó là những cái là cái nơi mà các con em của quý vị có thể nhận học bổng mỗi năm. Thì quý vị cũng nghe Christine và Hà Nhi chia sẻ đó, là Christine là một người phụ nữ mà vừa là mẹ, vừa là vợ, vừa có những cái công việc riêng của mình. Quý vị cũng đang nghe nói là Christine là hiện tại bây giờ đang là nguyên sinh dịch đơn giản là một cái người gọi là luật sư trưởng của cái cơ quan hàng không vũ trụ quốc gia NASA đó. Thì là người luật sư mà còn luật sư trưởng nữa, thì biết là có bao nhiêu là cái việc khó khăn mà Christine sẽ phải đối đầu với mỗi ngày. Ngoài ra thì còn phải làm mẹ, làm vợ, rồi những cái việc quản lý, là thành viên hội đồng quản trị của VOR nữa, cho nên rất là nhiều cái việc bận bịu. Ngoài ra thì quý vị cũng đã nghe chị Hà Nhi chia sẻ là chị Hà Nhi từ trước đến giờ là cả một cuộc đời của chị là phục vụ cho cộng đồng, theo cái việc như là làm trong văn phòng luật sư của quận Santa Clara. Sau một thời gian thì chị Hà Nhi bây giờ đang là quản lý viên của tổ chức của cái trung tâm Việt Mỹ, Vietnamese American Service Center của quận Santa Clara ở trên đường Center mà quý vị đã biết rồi đó. Thì chị Hà Nhi đã và làm việc ở đây được chừng vài tháng á chị Hà Nhi hả? Like a few months, yeah.
Yeah, nearly 2 months.
Yeah. Thì chị Hà Nhi cũng là một người rất là đóng góp rất là nhiều cho cộng đồng như vậy. Thì cũng là mẹ, cũng là vợ, cũng có những cái trách nhiệm riêng trong cuộc sống mà còn phải lo toan cho bao nhiêu người trong cộng đồng nữa. Thì vì bây giờ ba người phụ nữ này gọi là, tiếng Việt Nam mình gọi là superwoman đi ha. Tiếng Anh gọi là superwoman. Thì Nguyên hỏi ba người một câu là như vậy nếu mà mình là một người phụ nữ mà trong cái vai trò lãnh đạo, mình luôn luôn là gọi là cái tấm gương cho những bạn trẻ noi theo. Vậy thì ai là cái người mà chị Hà Nhi, Christine và Alicia hay nghĩ đến nhất khi mà mình đang cần tìm thấy một cái niềm động lực, hay là người nào mà mình hâm mộ nhất từ trước đến giờ là người phụ nữ trong cuộc đời của mình? Chắc chị Hà Nhi trả lời được không ạ?
Yeah, thank you, Nguyen, for that question about wool mentors. I'll share first sort of the mentors I had when I was younger, when I was sort of just a kid, and then through high school, and then also currently now. So when I was younger, I had a piano teacher, and I met her when I was in 4th grade. And she was my piano teacher from 4th grade through 12th grade. And I saw her every week, and she was just this stable, emotional sort of force for me every week. Who was so steady. And she saw me kind of grow up, right? And so it was just so comforting and so wonderful to have someone, in addition to the folks in my family, right? Someone outside who kind of saw me in a certain way, and it was so encouraging in a different context, right? And so as I was growing up, I viewed her as a mentor. And then in high school, I had my English teacher. She was a Vietnamese American woman in her 30s. She had gone to UCI, I remember, and here she was teaching English. And I remember she told all of us when we were in high school that she, went in that career path kind of contrary to what her parents had wanted, right? They wanted her to go into a more traditional field, I think, but majoring in English and teaching was not what they had wanted, right? And she was one of the first Vietnamese American women who was older than me that I saw and that I met, who did something, went towards a different path and was willing to pursue their passion. So she was a great mentor to me. And then now I'm very fortunate to have the VAPW Sisterhood. And as I was, thinking about the show, I just couldn't sort of parse through names because I knew I would forget one of the VAPW sisters, and they're all just so fantastic. And so I'll just say VAPW Sisterhood as a whole. And they're just amazing women who are in all sorts of professions and different points in their personal life and career. And I've looked to them so much sketchy. And when I first met them, I say this very publicly, I say to them, I don't care what you're selling, I'm going to follow you, because they're so supportive and have been so incredible in mentoring me as I've navigated motherhood and balancing that with work and community service. And I also learned from my younger VAPW sisters too, like Alicia, and all these up and coming sisters who do so much when they're in high school and college and as young professionals, And they frankly inspire me because I don't think I was that involved in all of this.
100%.
Yeah. And so I'll say my VAPW sisters as a whole, Christine and Alicia, to name the two that are here, just are mentors to me now.
That's so, I mean, that's so 100%. When do you want me to just to jump into, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Christine.
Okay.
Jim.
I mean, because I think Jihanyi talks about the sisterhood, and I think for me, of course, number one, first role models in the family are mom and grandma and aunt, right? I mean, the family history and what they demonstrate. But outside, it was, I think, I'm going to work a little bit backwards, because Jihanyi, I completely agree. It's some of the younger professional women like Alicia, Cindy, and a lot of the folks that are on the VAR board, VAPA, that are so inspiring, because I was not like that at their age, probably not like that in college even, right? It wasn't until my very first job outside of college. My first mentor there was Mary Mabin. She was a district director for Congressman Honda's office. And what she taught us is something just so enduring to this day, where, your relationships with people, it's so important to maintain and to, really, really nurture. Mary created this office environment where everybody was just so supportive of one another in their careers. And we are all still friends to this day, like, almost 15 years later. And in that course of that job, they also supported me to go out to meet other women. And that's how I came across VAPA and the VAPW ladies. And so, like Jihanyi, we would be here forever if I sat there naming names. But all the women in that group also helped to really just give me ideas about what my future career path could look like, right? And when I finally settled on the law, the women of VABank, the Vietnamese professional bar, many of whom wear multiple hats. They were also on VAPW, also on the VABank board. They pulled me in to make sure that I understood how to get through law school, and also Judge Erica Yu, who just won a lifetime accomplishment award through Supervisor Chavez's Women Summit. So Judge Yu is also an incredible mentor to show how you can have both your professional role but still be an advocate for the community. So just a network of sisters that put on different hats when they're called on without anyone really asking. And then also sisters that allow you to come and go as your life is getting rough, right? Like, for me, it was a first graduation. Now I deep dive into work for a bit, right? Or when I had a family, and then when I had the second, right? So, sisters that allow you to have that growth in your life, and not put it not begrudge you for that, because it is very hard to do all these things together.
Come on, Christine. Alicia, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly would love to echo a lot of what Henny and Christine said about how we have so many different women in our lives, and every woman that we meet kind of has a different strength about them. For example, my mother, my grandmother, they've inspired me to be resilient, and I personally am very motivated to find optimism in hardship by understanding their life experiences. And with Christine and Henny, I am really inspired by them, because they both demonstrate to me how it's possible to thrive in your career, to have very ambitious professional goals for yourself while also having a family, and also being community leaders outside of their 9-to-5s. So it really shows me that, being 23, I still have a whole life ahead of me, but seeing women who have come before me and who have done all of these remarkable things really inspires me to know that this is possible for me. And if I just have a strong drive, and if I, have the right people in my life to support me to get to my goals, it's possible to make them. But yeah, definitely, the women mentors that I have in my life have been yeah, their impact has been insurmountable to me. And everyone I meet has something that draws me to them. Every person has this little quality about them that strikes me in a way that makes me want to be like, I want to be like them. So there are so many, but to name a few, it's the women who are, in our call today, and the women in my family.
Cảm ơn Alicia, Christine và chị Hà Nhi. Thì cũng như là những lời của mà các bạn đã nói, là những cái người phụ nữ trong cuộc sống của các chị đã mà ảnh hưởng đến các chị rất là nhiều, là đa số là những người trong gia đình, hoặc là những người là giáo viên, người dạy dỗ mình, hoặc là những người mà gọi là họ có cùng một cái tính giống nhau đó. Nãy giờ Nguyên thấy là họ có cùng một cái tính cách là thích làm rất là nhiều việc, rất là bận bịu, rất là busy và thích gọi là, nếu mà mẹ Nguyên nói thì mẹ Nguyên sẽ nói là nhiều chuyện, nó lanh chanh nhưng mà nếu mà mình nói trong cái một cách lịch sự với nhau, là những người mà rất là quan tâm cho cộng đồng, rất là quan tâm đến cái việc mà đấu tranh giành cái quyền lợi cho những người mà người ta thấp cổ bé họng hơn. Thì mới cách đây vài bữa thì Nguyên có đọc một cái bài viết là hiện tại bây giờ thì phụ nữ vẫn gặp những cái khó khăn trong những cái việc mà để mà move up, những việc mà trở thành những cái người mà executive cho những công ty lớn. Phụ nữ vẫn gặp những cái khó khăn trong cái việc mà được trả tiền một cách công bằng. Một người phụ nữ vẫn trả 80 cent so với một cái đồng của người đàn ông làm ra. Thì Nguyên biết chắc là các chị cũng đã gặp những cái khó khăn trong cái việc, trong công việc, hoặc là trong những cái việc mà mình đi lên. Thì chắc là Philip có một cái câu hỏi dành cho mọi người ở cái việc này.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I felt like was a commonality between what the three of y'all shared was that even though we're praising you all as superwomen in our community, it took time to get there, and it also took the support of so many other role models and people along the way, who kind of shared both their personal and professional passion, the pursuit of their passions, and then showed you all the different possibilities of where you could be in your lives, right? And I think for our conversation tonight, one of the questions that we have that kind of Wayne alluded to is whether you could kind of speak to some of the things that, for folks from the outside looking in, perhaps some of the imperfections or the challenges or obstacles that have also been part of your life that maybe we don't talk about, or we suppress because we want to show up as this sort of like perfect person, right? And I think as we start to think about also how we move beyond just Women's History Month as a time where we celebrate women, right? As we enter, I kind of want to throw out the theme of our Black April commemoration this year, which is blooming beyond barriers, right? And this idea of a lotus kind of blooming from the mud was something that spoke really resonantly to our program committee team, right? And so my question back to you is, amidst all of these, what were some of those barriers that you all have bloomed through? And what are some of those ways in which you still see the community continuing to bloom forward? So on a both individual level and then on a broader scale in your work. I'm gonna pitch this one to you, Christine, first, just because it's a mention of Black April, and I know you were there for when we were first doing our Black April commemoration events. So
maybe that was thanks Philip. This is a hard question. But maybe jump starting and thinking about Black April, I'll maybe start backwards with the obstacles in terms of community first, and then maybe more personal obstacles. So Black April is a very good example of just the obstacles that we have when it comes to being women, and trying to work through communities, through all of the ups and downs of communities, right? It's really hard to balance when, hey, we want to work on things that advance the community, and obviously wanting that to happen fast so that everybody can benefit from it, but then also recognizing that the reality of working in that space is there are challenges very similar to a family, right? Disagreements, factions, different interests, and trying to find that commonality, and then also trying to bring people with you along that journey so that you do achieve true community change, right? So I don't think that there's one particular obstacle, but just kind of that general recurring theme of when we want to do something, we do have to try to bring folks together to do it. Personal obstacles, man, there's so many. Oh, in the
Of
sense
course,
of
not to out you, whatever you feel most comfortable with,
yeah,
or
yeah. So I'm gonna take an easy pass on this one. And I'm gonna say, I think the easiest one that comes to mind right now is that Charlie and I had our first daughter, Camilla Mio. She was born in 2020, which was at the very beginning of the pandemic. And so, we had envisioned this whole community of people coming together with us on this journey of being first time parents. And it was very, very lonely, just from a physical, I had the emotional support for everybody. But the distance was hard, to not be able to be around all the peeps that would normally be there to celebrate and support, right? And then I think that going back to work after that, and I say that it's difficult for me, but I say that knowing how privileged I was to be able to have a job where I, can be on Zoom, be at home with my daughters. And so, it always makes me think that one of the biggest obstacles that we have as women is the ability to have, affordable, reliable childcare, and especially for us as sandwich generations of childcare and parent, potential parent care for our senior parents, right? So I'd say like those are some of the obstacles that either I experience or I see as obstacles for women.
you sort of alluded to the sort of some of the generational challenges and ways that we might be able to address generational differences or divide. With that, I'm gonna pass it over to you first, Alicia. If you could share, from your perspective, what are some of these challenges or obstacles on an individual and then or even on a community level?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the kind of challenges I face today in my professional life are a result of the redirection that I've experienced from different institutions. So, for example, I had this very like narrow idea of getting into a dream school, and I didn't really know why, other than prestige, like why I wanted to go to a quote unquote dream school. But after my first round of applications in senior year, I realized my educational path wasn't going to be entirely linear or according to this plan that I had. So I was like set on going to a 4-year after high school, but honestly, my application just wasn't strong enough. I had to really come to terms with the fact that I wasn't a strong student at leading up to that, and I also didn't have strong time management, or kind of just like project management skills to juggle different priorities in my life. And that seriously hindered me. So after senior year of high school, I decided to reset. It, kind of humbled myself, humbled my mentality. I reset, went to community college. Actually went to De Anza, here in South Bay, and I just focused on taking classes and pursuing activities that really spoke to my genuine passion for emotionally investing in others. And by committing my time to something that really mattered to me, and it wasn't something I was doing just to buff up my resume, I was able to kind of like succeed in that because I genuinely enjoyed it. So I applied to 5 different UCs from De Anza, and I ended up choosing UC Berkeley, where I received my bachelor's in psychology in May of 2022. So my first job, the redirection is not done yet. I had my first job in recruiting, and I actually just got laid off, which is why I'm in a career transition period. But to me, I have kind of trained myself to see rejection as redirection. And when I face these kinds of obstacles, I really encourage myself to reflect on my own personal goals, like at that point in time, and the impact that I want my life to impart in the world. So now that I'm in this transitional period, I'm, revisiting one of my goals of pursuing psychology in a more clinical capacity. So that's just an example of like where I am now. But I just want to leave this message that, redirection reminds me that institutions, schools, jobs, companies, they exist to provide you with skills and tools to leverage your own personal impact. But what you choose to do with these skills and tools is what will ultimately build a legacy that you'll leave behind. So me going to UC Berkeley, it means absolutely nothing if I don't use the skills that I've learned to actually do good for people that will actually last beyond my lifetime.
So powerful.
Oh my goodness, snaps to that. And I'm writing that on a post-it too. Rejection, seeing rejection or opportunities being you're rejected to as redirection, and then that prompting very deep reflection, right? To really get a sense of where the next direction is. I think, you know, you also mentioned like speaking to the different institutions in the way that they perhaps like force us to think in a certain way, right? Or how are constantly battling with institutions or against like these sort of structures that impact the ways in which we live our lives, perhaps even without us knowing all the time. I mean, I'm passing this one to you, Tianyi, someone who's been able to navigate that sort of pathway, and to also, you know, recognize that it may not be as linear, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love that I'm following Alicia and then what you just said, Philip, because Alicia, the way that you packaged that, it just helped me sort of frame, I think, my path a bit. And it's exactly right with the whole redirection, right? And then and so let me be a bit more specific, right? And so um, you know, throughout my life, whatever it is that I'm doing, whether I'm going to college at an Ivy League, coming from like an immigrant background where I didn't have the same training and education that a lot of the folks that are in those classes, feeling like I wasn't good enough, right? And then going into professional settings where in so many ways I also felt like I was ill prepared and wasn't good enough, right? And you know, starting out as a lawyer and as a trial prosecutor, and then in so many ways with that system, you know, the way that these systems are kind of set up, right? It's like you gotta sort of perform in a certain way, right, to succeed. And then if I didn't quite fit that mold, it's like, okay, well, what's wrong with me? Am I just not good at A, B, and C? And then feeling like I'm doubting myself, this whole imposter syndrome, right? And then as I'm sort of going along and progressing through my career and I'm learning these tools, and then stepping now sort of, you know, into my 30s and into this new role, as I picked up all these skills and experience, sort of realizing and being more comfortable in my identity and sort of leveraging all these tools and skills that I've learned to help me realize like what my passion is and what impact I want to have in the community, right? And so you know, I'm grateful for where I am now, but it's just, it certainly has been a path. And I'm sure moving forward, there's going to be moments where I feel like I'm also not good enough, but I love this framing, Alicia, of sort of redirection, right? And so uh, in addition to that, you know, in terms of personal challenge, I also want to talk about, because Christine sort of mentioned motherhood too, right? With me having 3 kids, and I really love them and I wanted a family, right? But the reality of it is when, you know, I get pregnant and I'm going on maternity leave, you know, for the most part, it's a good chunk of, it's like a year and a half, right? Being pregnant, right? And all the things that come with that and how challenging it is to show up at work in a certain way because you're feeling morning sickness and whatnot. And then after that, being on leave and then coming back and trying to, you know, nurse the baby and dealing with all that, right? It's, you know, in so many ways, you kind of take a step back from your career because you were gone. I was gone for a period of time. And then I did that 3 times, right? And we're comparing, you know, comparing that with other colleagues of mine who just went straight through, right? And it's, everyone's different, right? But then I think for me, you know, as much as I want to do it all, I want to be a mom, I want to be a wife, I want to be an attorney, I want to serve the community. In so many ways, you feel like guilt and you feel like I wish I could do more and I wish I could progress more, right? And so I think that's a challenge. But you know, with my this last maternity leave, I intentionally carved out that time to be long, to be 1 year, so that I could reassess, right? Because I felt like I was so busy and going on this path, and I knew that I wanted to do something different, but I didn't quite know what. And so with this 1 year, it was this is a wonderful time for me to reassess, right? Kind of like what Alicia is doing. I kind of felt like it was an opportunity for me to think about how I wanted to intentionally step forward and move forward in this next step. And I came upon this, you know, in my current role, leading the VASC. And so it's been in many ways a redirection and sort of working through some of these challenges. But yeah, so that it's led me to where I am now.
Cảm ơn chị Hà Nhi, Christine và Alicia. Nguyên không có dịch hết đâu, nhưng mà Nguyên chỉ nói sơ sơ thôi là những cái khó khăn mà những các bạn và các chị đang gặp phải. Thì đầu tiên là Christine nói về cái việc mà khó khăn khi mà để mà mình kéo những người trong cộng đồng lại với nhau để mà làm ra một cái chương trình ý nghĩa, đúng không Christine? Um, thứ hai đó là cái việc mà làm mẹ, vừa đi làm, vừa phải làm mẹ, vừa phải lo cho con cái, vừa phải cái nhiệm vụ của một người vợ, của một người con đó. Christine nói một cái điều mà Nguyên nghĩ rất là đúng, đó là cái nhiệm vụ của một người con như tụi mình là vừa phải lo cho con cái của mình mà còn phải lo cho người lớn tuổi nữa. Cái đó là cái điều mà cũng ảnh hưởng đến gia đình của Nguyên rất là nhiều. Alicia, Nguyên xin dịch cái câu mà Alicia nói nha, đó là rejection là redirection đó, tức là từ chối là chuyển hướng hả? Là mỗi lần mà mình bị từ chối thì một cánh cửa này đóng thì cánh cửa kia sẽ mở ra. Maybe mình should have một cái show và nói về cái việc đó không thôi đó. Từ chối là chuyển hướng. Giống như là chị Hà Nhi cũng đã nói là những cái việc mà chị phải lo lắng trong cuộc sống của của mấy đứa con nhỏ. Vừa phải lo những cái nhiệm vụ của một người quản lý của một cái trung tâm lớn lớn như vậy, rất là nhiều trách nhiệm. Thì chị Hà Nhi có nói một cái câu mà Nguyên cũng muốn dịch cho quý vị nghe, đó là hội chứng kẻ mạo danh đó thưa quý vị, tức là imposter syndrome đó, tức là mình cảm thấy là mình có thành công đó, mình có những nỗ lực đó, nhưng mà mình cứ lúc nào mình cảm thấy như là mình không có đầy đủ, mình không có đủ. Mình cứ tiếng Việt thì đôi khi mình lại nghĩ đó là khiêm tốn, nhưng mà thật sự là không phải là khiêm tốn mà là mình cứ đánh giá quá thấp về bản thân của mình, đúng không thưa quý vị? Thì đó là những cái khó khăn, những cái điều mà các bạn chia sẻ. Thì Nguyên pass on to Philip đi. Philip có thể hỏi câu hỏi tiếp theo dành cho các chị.
Yes, and I'm getting chills as y'all are responding, and I also like think back and reflect, at least for Christine and Hanyi, when both of you were both pregnant and on maternity leave. I was fortunate enough to be part of that journey. So to see and also to know that there's so much that like me, even like that I didn't see on the surface level, and how composed y'all were in those spaces, I feel it's incredible, to say the least. This is our last question for tonight's VAR on Air. As you're all, of course, very well connected, as we've been able to talk through, there's so many things that y'all go through that perhaps like we don't always talk about, and we're given this opportunity during Women's History Month to highlight and honor you. We want to take some time to recognize that and to honor you, and to not only honor you, but to also share with our listeners, our audience members, how far you've come. And for all of the young Vietnamese American women, or just young women out there, if you could share, knowing what you know now, if there's any words of advice that you would have wanted to give yourself. I said at age 18, but just a general younger version of you sometime in the past. I'll start with you, Alicia.
Yeah, I think my response to this question is kind of more of like an extension on like what I was sharing earlier about, the message of taking every obstacle out you to reflect and kind of guide your next decision with more intention. I think if I were to give myself some advice at 18, or any young woman at 18 some advice, I would say, well, first and foremost, give yourself some grace. Nobody in the world knows, no one has this guidebook on how to live a proper life. Everyone is built differently. Everyone has a unique set of experiences that therefore lead them to have different strengths compared to other people. So give yourself some grace, give yourself the time to experiment and to understand what your strengths are, and also give yourself grace as you're, testing, putting those strengths to the test, like as you pursue different like jobs and if you're going to university, as you're pursuing different majors, or different partners. So yeah, I would just want to say, give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, and also share that with others. This world is hard enough on women. It's hard enough on other minorities. People, yeah, everyone is facing a different set of adversity. So just be understanding, just give people grace and compassion, and just navigate your life with like intention and genuinity about who you are and how you want to impact the world.
Christine, to you.
Oh, okay. So first, let me switch to Vietlish real quick. Trước khi chương trình á, là Nguyên đã nhắn mấy chị em là ráng cho Nguyên dịch mấy mấy cái lời trả lời trước để cho Nguyên dịch được. Nhưng mà mấy chị em không có nghe lời Nguyên, thành ra nãy giờ thấy Nguyên dịch mấy cái chữ hay quá. Rất là xin lỗi Nguyên, là không có nghe lời. Mà vì không có nghe lời Nguyên, thành ra Nguyên nó cũng xin là nếu được thì mấy chị em nói tí xíu tiếng Việt, thì bây giờ Christine đang ráng nói tiếng Việt để cho để giúp Nguyên. Một câu mà hay nghĩ đến tới chị em á, là cái câu and Nguyên, I don't know what this is called, maybe ca dao, I know there's a difference, but cái câu chị ngã em nâng. Là cái câu đó, it's so important, nó rất là quan trọng. It's so important because when I hear that, it sounds like, if someone falls, your sisters are there to lift you up. But I think the advice that I would give my younger self is that you have to give yourself that room to accept that help, right? So many times, whether it's guilt, like Jihanyi said, guilt, or whether it's the need to prove ourselves, we often try to do everything ourselves, and we don't ask for or even accept the help that's extended, right? And so yeah, if I were to tell my younger self anything, it would be, hey, don't forget that câu ca dao is chị ngã em nâng, and let the GMs nâng you when you are down, so that would be my my little advice to younger self. Thanks, Nguyên.
Chị Hà Nhi.
So I was reflecting back on my younger self, like in high school and early college. And, in so many ways, I think I went through periods of my life, especially around that age, where I put on this hard shell. And I remember thinking at various points in my life, I can handle things myself. I don't trust anyone. I just got to do it all myself. And, and I think just feeling very like this hard shell around me, but it was just to protect myself, right? Because I didn't want to get hurt. Because, I kind of felt like, well, what's the point of opening up? I'm going to get hurt in so many ways. Let me just handle it myself, right? And I've grown in so many ways, and I'm not like that anymore. But I would just tell my younger self, right? Like, just to be vulnerable. And there is a whole community out there that's just willing to support you and lift you up, just like Christine said. Right. But I think it's just when you're a teenager in your early 20s, getting teary-eyed. It's just, you just feel like it's you against the world in so many ways, and it's not. And there's a whole number of folks out there that are willing to stand by you and lift you up. Our sisters, right? Like our sisterhood, but then also, allies like Nguyen and Philip and Var for just spotlighting us, right? And we have so many allies in the community, not just our sisters. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so grateful for that. And that's what I would tell my younger self.
It's easy to spotlight y'all, especially when y'all are shining so brightly for us out here in the community. So Nguyen, pass it to you. Take us out.
Cảm ơn các chị, các em rất là nhiều và đã đến đây ngày hôm nay. Những cái lời khuyên của mọi người là rất là có ý nghĩa cho các bạn trẻ. Đặc biệt là cái chương trình này nó sẽ phát lên đài radio 1430 tiếng Việt San Jose, và được chia sẻ lên trên YouTube và Facebook của VOR nữa, cho nên là sẽ có rất là nhiều và các bạn trẻ lắng nghe cái chương trình này. Thì Alicia và Christine và chị Hà Nhi, những cái lời khuyên của mọi người thì cũng đơn thuần là những cái việc là mình phải tử tế hơn với bản thân của mình, phải mở lòng ra đối với mọi người. Và có một cái điều mà Christine nói mà Nguyên rất là thích, đó là chị ngã em nâng. Thì đúng thật sự như vậy, không những chị ngã em nâng thôi, mà là anh chị em trong gia đình ngã, là chúng ta đều sẽ có những người giống như là chị Hà Nhi nói, là những người ally như là Nguyên và Philip, những người đàn ông mà rất là đóng vai trò quan trọng trong cái việc mà nâng những người phụ nữ lên. Thì có một cái điều mà Nguyên vẫn chưa có đồng ý lắm đối với lại cái thông dịch của người Việt Nam mình, là cái chữ mà chị Hà Nhi nói lúc nãy, đó là vulnerable đó chị Hà Nhi. Thì tiếng Việt Nam là dịch ra là dễ bị tổn thương. Nhưng mà thật sự ra không phải, đúng không? Tại cái lời khuyên là mình vulnerable, tức là mình chia sẻ cảm xúc của mình mở lòng với mọi người, mình sẵn sàng nói là ê tôi cần giúp đỡ nè, tôi cần được giúp đỡ, giúp tôi đi, không phải là cái gì mà xấu xấu cả mà xấu hổ cả. Dạ. Thì chắc là chương trình của chúng ta ghi âm đến đây thì cũng là đến khúc cuối rồi, nhưng mà Nguyên cũng muốn xin cái giây phút này để mà gọi là cảm ơn ba người phụ nữ mà đối với Nguyên là ba người phụ nữ mà Nguyên rất là thích, rất là yêu quý và rất là tôn trọng. Cảm ơn các chị, các em rất là nhiều đã đến đây ngày hôm nay. Cảm ơn Philip đã dẫn dắt cái chương trình này. Và mong chắc là dùng cái giây phút này đi Philip để mà mời mọi người đến gặp Hà Nhi, Alicia và Christine trong ngày Black April của Vietnamese American Roundtable nhé. Dạ, vào ngày 30 tháng 4 năm nay, tức là vào ngày thứ ba lúc 5 giờ chiều tại tòa thị chính thành phố San Jose, thì kính mời quý vị đến tham dự chương trình Tháng Tư Đen của Vietnamese American Roundtable thực hiện. Dạ. Cảm ơn quý vị rất là nhiều. Vậy là chắc chị Hà Nhi, Alicia và Christine và Philip chúng mình gửi lời chào đến quý vị nhé.
Yeah. Cảm ơn quý vị và quý cộng đồng lúc nào cũng ủng hộ chương trình của VAR. Và Christine Chikidi, I forgot want to give one last shout out to all of the VAR women, board women, past and prior, fellow moms, fellow sisters. I think we missed them earlier, so I want to give a shout out to them, and then also to all of the pivot women and all that they do for democracy. So again, so many different hats that our women wear, and just so proud and honored to be a part of that community. And thank you so much, Philip and Nguyen, for having us tonight.
And I'll hop in. Thanks everyone for listening. And Christina and Alicia, so just wonderful to be in this conversation with you all, and Nguyen and Philip for bringing us together. What a special way to highlight Women's History Month.
Yeah, and lastly, I just want to hop in and say thank you so much, Nguyen, Philip, for putting this together, for all that you do for VAR and Air. And yes, everyone else in the community that I've ever crossed paths with, but didn't name drop today. You guys are all amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, hope everyone enjoyed the recording.
Thank you. Okay, Philip, any last word before we close out?
No, that's it. I think that I'll let the words speak for themselves, and I feel so inspired. I feel honored. I feel very loved, and I feel supported. And honestly, that's more than I think I could ever ask for. So I just thank everyone and share my gratitude with y'all.
Cảm ơn Philip, cảm ơn mọi người. Xin kính chào quý vị.